Why are you two laughing? Keegan set the tray of coffee down on the small table by the window. His eyes moved from me to my mother, then back to me. I tried to keep my expression as calm as possible. It's nothing. Laura took a sip of her tea, smiling very naturally. I was just thanking Tate for rushing over here so fast. Keegan looked at me. You drove fast. A little fast. A little? Laura laughed. Any faster and the police would have had to escort him. I plead guilty. I raised both hands in surrender. The atmosphere in the room instantly lightened. But only Laura and I knew that. A few minutes earlier, we had shared a very big secret. Every time Keegan happened to glance over, I felt like he was about to read every thought in my head. Laura had to stay at the hospital one more night for observation. Keegan decided to stay overnight too. I can stay here, he said as he walked me down to the lobby. You should go home and rest. You didn't sleep much last night either. I'm fine. I don't believe you. Keegan laughed. You really are a coach. Bossing people around everywhere you go. Occupational habit. We walked out through the hospital doors together. Seattle was very cold at night. The streetlights reflected off the pavement, still wet from the rain. Tate. Thank you. Thanking me again. This time it's different. You didn't have to drop everything to come. I wanted to. I answered very naturally. So naturally that even I didn't have time to think it through. Keegan looked at me. For a long time. Why? I almost blurted out everything. That it was because I loved him. That as long as he called, I would always come. That seeing him hurting bothered me more than my own pain did. But in the end I just smiled. Because you're my friend. Something flickered across Keegan's eyes. It looked like disappointment, but it vanished too quickly. Right? He replied softly. Friend. I don't know why, but the way Keegan repeated that word made my heart ache. 3 days later, Laura was discharged. Before heading back to Arizona, she hugged me tightly. Tate. Yes. I'm entrusting Keegan to you. I laughed. You make it sound like he's a child. He's very stubborn. I know. But around you, he knows how to smile more. Keegan stood behind her, helpless. Mom, you're embarrassing me. Laura winked at me. Don't let him fool you. When he was little he cried watching cartoons. Mom! This time I laughed out loud for real. Keegan's whole face turned red. I'm getting revenge. Try it, I said. That was the first time I'd seen Keegan flustered. And I had to admit, he looked extremely adorable. Life gradually settled back into its rhythm. Morning gym sessions, classes during the day, studying or working part-time in the evenings. Only one thing had changed. Keegan and I were together almost every day. If not training, then studying in a group. If not studying, then having dinner together. Even a lot of people at school just assumed we were roommates. Every time he heard that, Keegan just smiled. I pretended not to hear it. One afternoon in late November, the gym held a fitness competition for students. The prize wasn't much, just a small trophy and a free membership card. I couldn't compete since I was a coach, but Keegan could. Nervous, I asked while helping him wrap his wrists. A little. Don't think about winning. Just do as well as you do in training. Keegan nodded. I know. The competition began. Deadlifts, bench press, sprints, rope climbing. Every event was brutal. I stood outside shouting nonstop. Keegan, breathe steady. Keep your back straight. That's it. At one point he was so exhausted he nearly buckled. But then he stood back up, kept going. I remembered the guy who, 3 months ago, had complained over just 10 push-ups. The person in front of me now was so much stronger, not just physically, but mentally too. By the final event, Keegan was only 1 point behind the leader. The organizers announced the last challenge, pulling a sled loaded with nearly 90 kilos. Whoever finished fastest would win. The whistle blew. The competitors took off together. Keegan started a little slow, but every step he took was solid. Halfway through, the leader began to run out of breath. Keegan kept his pace. Speed up, I screamed until my voice went hoarse. Come on. Only 5 meters left. 3 meters. 1 meter. Keegan crossed the finish line less than half a second ahead of his rival. The whole gym erupted. Applause. Cheering. I shouted just as loudly like a kid. Keegan stood bent over, catching his breath. Then, amid everyone's cheers, he lifted his head. The first thing he did wasn't look at the trophy, wasn't look at the scoreboard. It was to find me. Our eyes met across the crowd. Keegan smiled, a bright, proud smile. Then he gave me a thumbs up, as if to say, we did it. Not I, but we. In that moment I knew, even though Keegan had never said it out loud. In his heart, I had become an inseparable part of this journey. And that made me happy, and afraid too, because I didn't know how much longer I could keep hiding these feelings. After the competition that evening, the whole coaching team headed to a pizza place near campus to celebrate. The dining room was loud. Everyone clinked their soda glasses, talking and laughing nonstop. Keegan sat next to me. The small trophy sat right in the middle of the table. The winner has to give a speech. Maya laughed loudly. No refusing. The whole table chanted along. Speech. Speech. Keegan wasn't one to enjoy being the center of attention. He got up reluctantly, scratching the back of his neck. Honestly, I'm not good at public speaking. When I signed up for this competition, I just wanted to see how far I'd come. He looked at the trophy, then suddenly turned to me. But if it weren't for Tate, I would have quit the first week. The whole table immediately turned to look at me. Before I could even react, Keegan continued. He's the strictest person I've ever met. Also the most patient. Some mornings I wanted to sleep in. He'd drag me out of bed. Some days I thought I couldn't do it. He always said, one more rep. Keegan laughed. I used to hate that phrase. Now, I'm grateful for it. Applause rang out around the table. Maya nudged my shoulder. Tate, you're about to cry. I am not. Your eyes are clearly red. I could only laugh. Not out of embarrassment, but because what Keegan had just said meant more to me than any trophy ever could. After dinner, everyone gradually left. Only Keegan and I walked back to the parking lot together. The late autumn air was noticeably colder. Christmas lights were starting to go up along both sides of the street. Seattle was getting ready for the holiday season. Tate. I have a gift for you. A gift. Keegan pulled a small box out of his backpack. Open it now. I took it. Inside was a small silver whistle, attached to a leather keychain. On the back was engraved a line. One more rep. I burst out laughing. No way. You actually had this engraved? Yeah. So that every time you scold a client, they'll know you've got a signature move. I laughed so hard I had to bow my head. This is the strangest gift I've ever gotten. You don't like it? I love it. I gripped the keychain tightly in my hand. Really? Maybe Keegan didn't realize it. But it was the first gift in years that made me feel like someone was truly listening to me and remembering the small things about who I am. A week later, Thanksgiving break arrived. The campus grew quiet. Most students went home. I planned to drive back to visit my parents too. I was packing when my phone rang. It's Keegan. I picked up. Are you on the road yet? Not yet. Something wrong. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds. I'm not going back to California. I know. And my mom's in Arizona. Right? I'm staying on campus. I understood immediately. Keegan would be spending Thanksgiving alone. Let me ask you something. Do you want to come with me? Keegan hesitated. You mean? To my place. Would that be okay? I'll ask my parents. Wait for me. I called my mom right away. Mom, can I bring a friend home? Mom's voice came through, full of excitement. A friend. Boy or girl? A boy. Even better. The house could use more people. It'll be more fun. I laughed. I knew you'd say that. 3 hours later, Keegan and I hit the road. The pickup truck drove along the I-5 highway. Outside the window, stretches of conifer forest rolled by, one after another. Keegan sat in the passenger seat, quieter than usual. Nervous. A little. Why? I've never been to a friend's house for Thanksgiving. Never met a friend's parents like this either. I laughed. Don't worry. They'll like you. How can you be so sure? Because they always like good people. Keegan turned to look at me. You think I'm a good person too? I've never doubted it. He didn't answer, just turned to look out the window. But I still caught the faint smile reflected in the glass. As the truck turned onto the street where I grew up, Mom's call came through. How far are you to? 5 more minutes. Hurry up. I just finished the turkey. I laughed. Okay. She hung up. Keegan took a deep breath. I'm nervous. Why? What if your parents don't like me? I looked at him, then answered as firmly as I could. Keegan. Just be yourself. They'll love you. I didn't know that this very trip home would make both my parents and Keegan realize something the two of us were still trying to deny. That between us, it had stopped being just friendship a long time ago. The truck had barely stopped in front of the house when the front door flew open. I told you they'd be right on time. My mom nearly ran out onto the porch, still wearing her red apron printed with a turkey. My dad followed behind, a dish towel still in his hand. Finally home. I'd barely stepped out of the truck when Mom threw her arms around me. You've gotten thinner. Mom. We saw each other last month. Last month was last month. You still look thinner to me. I laughed. Everything was just the same as always. Warm, loud, full of the smell of cinnamon, butter, and roasted turkey. Then Mom turned to Keegan. You must be Keegan? Keegan looked a little flustered. Yes. Yes, ma'am. Hello. My mom opened her arms. Come here. Keegan blinked. What? A hug. Tate told me you're shy about that kind of thing. But in this house, no shyness allowed. Keegan looked at me pleadingly. I just shrugged. Accept your fate. He laughed and stepped in for a gentle hug with my mom. What surprised me was, just a few seconds later, the tension on Keegan's face had almost completely disappeared. My dad carried Keegan's bag inside. Make yourself at home, son. Thank you, sir. No need to be formal. If Tate gives you any trouble, you let me know. He's been stubborn since he was a kid. I can hear you, you know. I cut in. Dad laughed loudly. Good. I want you to hear it. Keegan looked between the two of us and burst out laughing. The laugh was completely natural. No trace of awkwardness left. Thanksgiving dinner turned out to be more crowded than I'd expected. Besides my parents, there was my older sister, her husband, and their 5-year-old daughter, Lily. The moment Lily saw Keegan, she ran straight over. You're handsome. The whole table burst out laughing. Keegan turned red. Tate, thank you. Lily put her hands on her hips. Do you have a girlfriend? Lily. My sister laughed. She's only 5. Who taught her to ask that? Grandma. My mom cleared her throat theatrically. Well, that's... The whole family roared with laughter. Lily kept staring at Keegan, curious. You didn't answer. Keegan looked at me, then laughed. I don't. Lily turned to me. What about you, Uncle Tate? I don't either. The little girl tilted her head, thinking, then said something that made the whole table go silent. Then you two should just get married. I nearly dropped my fork. Keegan choked on his food. My dad had to turn his face away to keep from laughing out loud. My sister quickly patted Lily's head. You can't say things like that. Why not? Because. She got stuck. Lily pouted. I always see you two looking at each other. And you'd make a cute couple. I felt my ears burning. Keegan was just as red. My mom calmly changed the subject. All right, let's eat. But I still noticed my parents glancing at each other, smiling. That night, Keegan and I slept in my old room. There were 2 twin beds. Everything was still the same as when I was in high school. Track and field medals hung on the wall. An old baseball bat. A few family photos. Keegan walked slowly around the room. You kept everything so well. I'm a bit sentimental. I like that. He stopped in front of a photo. In it, I was 17, much skinnier than I am now. Keegan laughed. Tate. You look like a toothpick. I know. Thanks for the reminder. I have to take a picture of this. Absolutely not. Why not? It's historical evidence. I'm going to delete it. I don't believe you. The two of us laughed and joked around like kids. A while later, Keegan sat down on the edge of the bed. Tate. Yeah. Today. I was really happy. Yeah. It's been a long time since I felt like I was home. I looked at him. Under the yellow glow of the night light, Keegan's face looked gentler than I'd ever seen it. You know, I'm a little jealous. Jealous? Yeah. Of you. Why? You have a wonderful family. Your parents. Your sister. Your niece. Everyone loves each other. I sat down across from him. Your family loves you too. Keegan smiled sadly. It's just, we're not together anymore. I understood. There are some empty spaces that words of comfort alone can't fill. I stood up, opened my old closet, pulled out a small wooden box. What's in there? All the letters my mom wrote me. From when I was away at summer camp. Keegan opened one just to peek. Only read a few lines. Then closed it gently. Your mom writes beautifully. Yeah. I kept them because whenever I missed home, I'd read them again. Keegan looked at the box for a long time. Tate. If one day I open an architecture firm and you open a gym, we're both really busy. Do you think we'll still be friends? I didn't answer right away because deep down, I didn't want to be just friends. Not for a long time now, but I still smiled. I'll always be by your side. That was the most honest answer I could give at that moment. Keegan nodded slightly. That's enough then. He didn't know that the question he'd just asked had made me realize something. I was no longer afraid that confessing would cost me Keegan. What I feared more was spending my whole life standing beside him only as a friend. And for the first time, I began to think, maybe it was time for my heart to be honest. The next morning, I was woken up by the smell of waffles and coffee. I opened my eyes. Keegan was already up. He stood by the window wearing my gray sweater, which my mom had given him the night before since his luggage hadn't packed enough warm clothes. I had to admit, that sweater suited him really well. The early winter sunlight filtered through the window, casting a soft glow over his brown hair. In that moment, I could only sit there and stare. Am I really that good-looking? Keegan's voice came without him turning around. I flinched. How did you know I was looking? The window reflects everything. Covered my face. So embarrassing. For the first time since realizing my feelings, Keegan had caught me red-handed. He turned around, a soft smile on his face. Morning. Morning. Let's go eat. Your mom said if the waffles get cold, she'll make us both do the dishes. I laughed. Okay. Breakfast was just as lively as the night before. Lily ran around the house wearing a paper turkey hat. My dad argued with my brother-in-law about a football game result. Mom and my sister prepared dessert. Keegan sat next to me, occasionally getting pulled away by Lily to play with building blocks. I'd never seen him be so patient with a kid before. Uncle Keegan. Lily held out a puzzle piece. Help me. Okay. Keegan sat down on the floor, bit by bit, helping her finish a little wooden castle. The little girl giggled. Tate. Mom nudged my shoulder. Look at that. What? Keegan's going to make a really good father someday. I was drinking water and nearly choked. Mom. I'm saying it quietly. That's not quiet. I'm old, not deaf. She grinned mischievously. I could only shake my head. But deep down, I found myself unconsciously imagining a future far off. A small house, a gym, someone who always stood by my side. And that someone was Keegan. The moment that thought appeared, I immediately reminded myself not to dream too much. That afternoon, the whole family went for a walk along the lake near the house. Golden leaves covered the path by the water. Lily ran ahead, laughing loudly. Keegan leaned against the railing, looking out at the still surface of the lake. Tate. Do you believe in fate? I don't know. Why? I think people make choices, and choices shape a life. Keegan nodded. I used to think that too. Used to? Yeah. But now, I think there are certain meetings that are meant to happen. I turned to look at him. Like what? Keegan smiled. Like the first day I walked into the gym. If the manager hadn't assigned you as my coach that day, we wouldn't have gotten close. I wouldn't have changed. Maybe I wouldn't smile as much as I do now either. I smiled. Same for me. Same for you. Yeah. Since I met you, every day feels like something worth looking forward to. Keegan looked at me. His gaze was so deep I almost didn't dare hold it for long. A cold breeze blew past. Maple leaves spun through the air. The space around us fell strangely quiet. Tate. There's something I want to tell you. My heart pounded. Go ahead. Keegan took a deep breath. Right at that moment, Lily came running from a distance. You too. Come here quick. Picture time. The moment was cut short. Keegan smiled faintly. Later then, I tried to smile back. Yeah. But inside, I felt an overwhelming sense of regret. I had a feeling that he had just been about to say something very important. That evening, after dinner, my dad called me out to the garage. Come help me with something. I followed him outside. The garage door closed behind us. Dad looked at me for a few seconds, then asked, very directly, Tate, you love Keegan, don't you? I froze. Dad, you don't need to explain. I'm just asking. I lowered my head. Both hands clenched tight. Then slowly I nodded. Yes, I love him. Once I'd said it, I felt a strange sense of relief. Dad didn't say anything right away. He stepped closer and put a hand on my shoulder. Son, the only thing I care about is whether the person you love treats you well. Ever since Keegan walked through that door, I've seen the way he looks at you. It's exactly the same way you look at him. I looked up. You think he also? Dad smiled. I can't say for sure, but if someone looks at you like you're the most peaceful place in the world, then you should be brave, just this once. I felt my throat tighten. Dad. Thank you. He pulled me into a tight hug. It's nothing. You're still my son, no matter who you love. I closed my eyes. For the first time in my life, I was no longer afraid of my own heart. There was only one thing left to do. Tell Keegan the truth. And I decided, the moment we got back to Seattle, I wouldn't hide it anymore, no matter how it turned out. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life living with the words, what if?